All right, let's just jump right into this explainer because we really need to talk about how internet traps are completely holding us back from actually learning a new language. You know the ones. You've definitely seen those crazy promises. Master a language in 6 weeks, or, just download this magic app and become a fluent polyglot while waiting for your morning coffee. But looking at our source material today, the real truth is actually a lot more straightforward. It's a little more solitary and honestly surprisingly practical. So we're going to strip away all that noise and look at what genuinely works.
Our source breaks this entire playbook down into 5 very clear steps. We've got 1. Finding the right motivation. 2. Mastering the boring basics. 3. Listening without subtitles. 4. Speaking to yourself. And finally, 5. Mastering culture and context.
So, let's kick things off with Section 1, Finding the Right Motivation.
The source brilliantly illustrates the massive difference between motivations that basically fade overnight and the kinds that actually force you to achieve real fluency. Like, if you decide to pick up a crazy difficult language just to impress strangers on the internet, or say because you want to watch anime without subtitles, the source points out that this kind of motivation is going to sustain you for, well, exactly 1 day. Contrast that with actual necessity. Imagine your friends made a secret group chat without you, and you absolutely need to know what they're saying. Or, in a much more extreme historical example, a foreign power invades your country, and you literally need the language to survive. Those are immediate, high-stakes motivators. They practically guarantee success, mostly because, well, failure just isn't an option.
Now, let's say you aren't currently being invaded, right? And you really just want to get your feet wet. If you're looking for an easy win, you'll want to pick one of the widely spoken languages before attempting something significantly harder. For English speakers, languages like Spanish, French, and Portuguese offer the absolute path of least resistance. The source cheekily notes that, hey, a huge chunk of the world just happens to speak these as official languages due to a weird coincidence of history, which means you're basically guaranteed to have an absolute abundance of media and native speakers to practice with down the line.
But what's really fascinating here is that this entire self-taught method requires absolutely zero human interaction. I mean, the internet is constantly telling you to immediately hire a tutor or find a language exchange partner who's willing to sit there and essentially talk to you like a baby until you get it. And sure, while that works, it requires relying on another human being. This 3-step process, it is designed for you to do completely alone, in your own room, on your exact schedule.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 2, Mastering the Boring Basics.
Okay, here is the ultimate trap. You decide you're going to learn Korean, right? But instead of actually learning a single solitary word of Korean, you end up watching 138 meta YouTube videos on how to learn Korean. The actual alternative? Just Google a free beginner textbook PDF for your target language and actually do the exercises. The source points out a hilarious but painfully true metric here. Just 1 month of actually grinding through exercises in a free beginner textbook is roughly equal to about 2 years of mindlessly tapping buttons on Duolingo, or, roughly 12 years of traditional American public schooling. Is it boring? Yeah, absolutely. But it is undeniably effective for building that crucial initial foundation.
Moving right along to Section 3, Listening without English subtitles.
So your goal at this stage is to find content where you can understand at least 30% of what's being said. If native speakers sound like they're just gatekeeping their language with a wall of rapid-fire gibberish, adding one magic word to your YouTube search can fix it. That word is easy. By just typing easy alongside your target language, you're going to find videos specifically tailored for learners. You definitely won't understand everything, but by really observing the visuals and relying on context clues, your brain is going to start picking up the language entirely subconsciously. Because when you think about it, most daily conversations just rely on the exact same few thousand core words anyway.
But listen, there is a massive, massive pitfall here. The source issues a very strict warning about this. If you rely on English subtitles, in 5 years you are going to have absolutely nothing to show for it except an anime profile picture and a Discord Nitro subscription. Seriously, when you have English subtitles on, your brain just takes the path of least resistance. You aren't actually practicing Japanese or French at all, you're really just practicing how to read English quickly. The author heavily stresses that you absolutely must use automatic captions in your target language instead. That way you can pause, rewind, and actually look up the unknown words on sites like Reverso Context to see how they're used in real, everyday sentences.
And that perfectly sets up Section 4, Speaking to Yourself.
So, the really crucial takeaway here is that this kind of lonely, weird process of talking to a camera and looking up words later, that's exactly what being self-taught actually looks like. You start out by pausing those YouTube videos we just talked about, and you repeat the important sentences out loud.
Then, you escalate things. You sit in your room, turn on your camera, and just start talking about your day to a completely imaginary person. Now, when you inevitably forget how to say something, and trust me, it's a when, not an if, do not freeze. Just say the missing word in English and keep the momentum going. Later on, when you watch that recording back, you can identify those exact gaps and use a translation tool like DeepL to figure out the specific vocabulary you are missing. It sounds incredibly isolating, I know, but it is a highly efficient way to build conversational fluency without the terrifying pressure of a live audience.
Okay, so congratulations on becoming completely fluent in the comfort of your own bedroom. But what happens when you finally travel? How are you going to handle those inevitable, real-world interactions with actual native speakers? Because at some point, you are going to have to leave your room, hop on a plane, and really test these skills out in the wild.
Which leads us to our final step, Section 5, Mastering Culture and Context.
Imagine you're planning this big trip to Paris. Your tourist expectation might be, a beautiful romantic stroll right by the Eiffel Tower. But the reality on the ground, it might actually be hundreds of French farmers driving massive tractors right into the capital to form a huge blockade. And if you stop a local Frenchman to ask what on earth is going on, he'll probably just tell you that this highly creative protest is basically just a normal Tuesday in France to pass the time. If you don't actually know the broader cultural context, that protesting is practically a deeply ingrained civic tradition over there, well, all the language skills in the world aren't going to save you from total confusion.
To navigate these kinds of situations, our source builds a really strong case for media literacy, specifically by looking at how platforms like Ground News analyze global stories. They show how the left, right, and center will cover the exact same farmer protest completely differently. For instance, a left-leaning publication might frame those protesting farmers as these strong, revolutionary heroes bravely standing up to the government. Meanwhile, a centrist outlet is just going to offer very neutral, matter-of-fact reporting. But then, a right-leaning publication might frame those exact same farmers as angry, manure-slinging traffic blockers. Seeing all three of these angles simultaneously is absolutely crucial for getting a complete, impartial understanding of the actual culture you're stepping into.
The source notes that grasping this kind of nuance, like maybe by checking out international editions of the news, means you'll actually understand the complex conversations happening around you at local cafes or train stations. They felt so strongly about this practical, real-world application that they actually partnered with the app to give their viewers a 30% discount to try the unlimited access plan for themselves. So, are you ready to close out all those meta videos and finally just open a textbook? It is time to seriously evaluate your own study habits, stop desperately searching for shortcuts, and take the first real, incredibly pragmatic step toward fluency today. As we've seen, the secret isn't some magic app or a 6-week life hack. It's about finding the absolute right motivation, grinding through a pretty boring beginner textbook, watching comprehensible videos without those English subtitles, talking to your camera like a crazy person, and ultimately really grasping the cultural context. The entire roadmap is clear and it's sitting right in front of you. So, what is actually stopping you from taking that first step?